Hi. One of my coaching clients has been working or helping design a piece of research that's been done by Gallup called the Global Workplace Survey or State of the Global Workplace. And I'm just looking at the summary on my phone now. And while someone told me some of the headlines a few weeks ago, it's just interesting, and I want to just share my thoughts on it, having been in people development now for 25 years. And of course, we know some of the big changes that have happened to workplace structure, culture, locations, etc., over the last 4 years since March of 2020. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts, really, and really share the opportunity. Because to me, when I read the headlines, it's pretty bad. Um, but anything that looks bad now in my mind is an opportunity for significant change towards people at work enjoying their work. And when they enjoy their work, they do a better job. And when they do a better job, the results improve. And while that might seem obvious, it's not what a lot of companies do. And just in the last month, in talking with people who work in large organizations or medium to large organizations, anything up to multinationals, in fact, um, that I speak to regularly, is that to me, anyway, there seems to be, I've never known a bigger gap between what senior leadership say and what actually happens. I've never seen that gap as big as it is today. And I'm not pointing fingers, I'll come on to my thoughts on that in a moment. But before that, some of the headline statistics from this survey. This is global, and of course, it's across every country and across every industry and every organization, so it might not be you. However, these are, in my mind, quite startling. Um, 23% of the people who answered this survey said that they were engaged in their work. 23%, which means 77 aren't. 77% of people at work aren't engaged in their work and actively disengaged. Actively disengaged in their work is 15%. And then 62% not engaged. So the opportunity, I wonder what would happen if that was 100%. Because effectively, what's happening is if only 23% of employees are engaged, that does mean I would be as bold as this is to say that 77% of the opportunity for business results are just not there because of that. And that's not the employee's fault. It's not necessarily the individual's person's line manager's fault. I'm not saying it's anybody's particular fault, but it is a failure of management and leadership. It is a failure of management and leadership without judgment in that, but it has to be. Just think about it. Thriving in their life was another headline from this survey. 34% said they were thriving in their life, which is not just about work, it's outside of work too. And while, that's a number that you might think, wow, 34% of people are thriving in their life, it does mean that two-thirds aren't. Two-thirds of people who answered this survey, they said they're not thriving. And to me, why that matters is anybody who's thriving in their life will do a great job day in, week out, month by month. Because the state of mind of being in thriving is that they will adore everything about what they do. They will have engagement. They will have um, enjoyment in their work and they'll put a lot into it. So what was interesting to me is that if only 23% are engaged, but 34% are thriving, then I don't really know why there's a disparity between the two. That's just an interesting point, because I would suggest that those two numbers would probably be very closely aligned. But maybe there's something else going on there. And when I look into the survey in more detail, maybe that will become evident. But one thing to say is that one read from that would be that the disparity between thriving in life and engaged in work could be because they're thriving outside of work and not thriving in it. Another opportunity, in my mind anyway, that when people are thriving at work, your results will improve. Everything gets better when an employee feels they're thriving in their work. Stress, the next big bucket I looked at here. The question was, did you experience a lot of stress? And the question was a lot of stress yesterday. It doesn't necessarily mean a lot of work, a lot of stress at work yesterday, but a lot of stress yesterday. 41% of people said they had a lot of stress yesterday. To me, that's, well, I know there's been that number's kind of like it's not growing hugely according to the survey by Gallup. But at the same time, I feel that is horrible. That 4 out of 10 people yesterday had a lot of stress. And what's interesting is in spending a lot of time looking at stress, its causes and what dissolves it, its cause, its nature, and what dissolves it, including within companies, it's absolutely not required. And sometimes innocently, a manager or a leader will actually put stress on, would put pressure on their employees, not knowing that that is a great recipe for someone to do less well at their work. This next one, to me, is another symptom of what's really going on. The number of people watching on the lookout for or actively looking for a new job. So, watching for, kind of browsing, would be open to the idea, or actively looking for a new job, 52%. Half the current workforce are on the look to go somewhere else. Which to me, I mean, that does go back to the whole engagement fact too. Um, that's what happens when someone isn't engaged. They will be very open to looking elsewhere. And I think it says a lot about the state of the workplace today and really the state of management and leadership about how well they look after their people. And I will go back to that point earlier on. I've never known um, a bigger gap between what leaders say they will do and what actually gets done. So, example, well-being programs that are talked a lot about and not actually delivered, and people aren't experiencing the well-being that is being talked about by the leaders. Now, I want to go back to it not being um, anyone's specific fault because in talking with people in my position of my work, then I get to talk to a lot of people who are at every level in organization, including people on the board, vice presidents, CEOs. But here's what I notice. There are three things that are behind, from my experience, what's going on here. Number one, they may not know that this issue exists in their people. They may not know. Now, you could say that ignorance is bliss, as I think it's in a George Orwell book way back. I think it's an Animal Farm by George Orwell. But coming back to the point here, you might not know the extent to which your people are disengaged because it's not always visible, but it's still happening. And turning a blind eye or not looking for it isn't going to help because these issues really are there. So going back to one point, if 23% of the workforce are say that they're engaged in their work, 77% of your greatest asset and cost are not doing the work that you want them to do. And that's not their fault. They are just disengaged. And there's ways of re-engaging people. It's not about them. So just wanted to make that point. Second thing is, so number one, they might not know there's an issue. Second thing is, they might know there's an issue. Um, so example, stress, but they don't know what to do about it. Okay, well, yeah, it's people. I mean, I don't really understand people. Few conversations and this week with startups in the tech world, um, and another startup in the construction industry, highly skilled construction industry, and it was kind of noticeable that brilliant technically at their work and ideas, but given the fact that their business has now grown to a medium or large organization, don't understand people at all. So they know there's an issue, but it's people and I don't get people. So that's another bucket. Or wait a minute, okay, there's stress and disengagement, and people are actively looking for a new job, and I don't really know what to do about it. So that's the second bucket. The third one is I know what to do and we're doing it, but it doesn't seem to be working. Now, to me, that third point, which to me goes back to really um, the gap between what people are saying is going on regarding well-being and caring for their people is seems to be felt by employees to be a tick box exercise. It's saying it for its mean sake, but in fact, it's not actually being felt by the employees. To the degree to which my manager cares about my future, the degree to which leadership, the people matter to the leaders, the degree to which my voice is heard, the degree to which I feel valued, all of those kind of questions, which is how anybody would know truly if their people are engaged and if management is doing a good job. Now, here's the good news. There is a direct line into changing this that I didn't know was available until maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. A direct line where the state of mind of an organization and its culture can dramatically improve from, fraught and frenzied up until everyone's enjoying this and they're all playing full out. That can be achieved. And it's not in the traditional sense. So traditional sense of well-being programs is okay. Well, one thing what a lot of people do. Okay, we'll just throw more money at them, and that'll do the job, and they'll just they'll do the job because there's golden handcuffs here. Um, it'll work to an extent, but it's a terrible way of leveraging an asset. It's a terrible way of leveraging an asset. There's another way of leveraging an asset. And going back to another point on this as well regarding stress a lot yesterday, what can happen when the state of mind of the individuals within an organization and therefore as a whole company improves? They become far more resilient to disappointment, far more able to withstand challenges. The the classic curve of change, and classical seen it right, where change curve, you rebel against it, get angry, and then you're in this pit of despair, and then eventually people get over it. Well, when people understand how feelings work and see their own resilience to getting over things, then that curve is shortened and shallower. Now, I've seen that time and time again in organizations and in individual teams and individual people. So that is absolutely possible. What's also possible is to change the personal, I don't know, feeling state of employees from work is hell, I can't wait to leave, I'm on the move, to I really love working here. And people love the work and working here. The same person. But it does require time and energy, and frankly, it requires investment. And it's a way of, to me, it's one of those no-brainers from my perspective and my own opinion. Because if you could change the engagement of your people from 23% to 80%, even if it's just 80, and I mean just 80, then what's that? 57% of the workforce are now working. So you've gone from, I don't know what the maths would be, let's say from a 4 liter, sorry, a four-cylinder motor in a car to currently it being one cylinder working, one spark plug, if you like, going back to very old-fashioned engines that I remember working on as a teen, to then going to three out of the four cylinders working. And even that would make a threefold increase in the productivity and output of the people. That is on offer. And what I'm, delighted to really share in this is that all of these are opportunities, as stark as some of these numbers are. And to me, I was a little bit horrified when I was told the headline numbers. Um, but horrified, but not overly surprised. There is a way that this can absolutely change. And it does require a new way of thinking because going from the outside and fixing the external circumstances of somebody's work. So, okay, we'll make it a nicer environment. Um, we'll give them another incentive. That's been tried time and time again, and it's been proven to be incredibly ineffective in the medium and long term. Incredibly ineffective. And the reason is because that's not where engagement comes from. It's not the cause of stress. It's the causes of stress. It does not come from those external things, nor does the good feeling of engagement and enjoyment. So, invitation. If this has piqued your curiosity and you do want to talk and you're serious about it, then by all means do get in touch. And whether this just for you personally or it's for your team or your entire organization, then just get in touch because there's great ways of making this a very different experience for your employees, a very different experience for you, and therefore also for the results of your organization. A place where people love to work, wherever the location is, whether they still are at home, a location and a place they love to work, a job that they love, and results follow. I hope this was helpful. Have a good day.